All right, so today we have one of my favorite lawyers. We have Lyann Goudie, one of my favorite lawyers, and I could go on and on and on. If you want to talk about a multi-part series, we could just do it on Lyann Goudie because of the experience that she has. So today we have Lyann Goudie. Mike Giasi will be joining us in a little bit, and then we've got Eddie Reyes, of course, our co-host. So what we do, Lyann, is we kind of in and out. I'll be asking questions. But first of all, we want to announce that, first of all, just tell us, Lyann, about your experience. Tell us from day one, first of all, why did you want to become a lawyer? What happened there?
So I wanted to become a lawyer when I watched Perry Mason.
Okay. I think a lot of people maybe.
When I was young and I used to hang out with my dad and we would watch that, and so I always thought I wanted to be a lawyer. When I became an American citizen, which was in 1970, they gave you a little booklet that had a copy of the Constitution and an American flag.
Interesting.
And it became probably one of the most impressive things to me that I had ever gone through at that point. I was only 10. And so it just continued to fuel the fire.
Sure.
Then I graduated high school, went to college, was majoring in marketing. I got married. I had my child. When I was getting a divorce and I had to hire lawyers, I said, for sure, I'm going to become a lawyer, because I never wanted to go through another experience in my life where I had to rely upon somebody else to give me the information that was needed. My mother agreed to stay and watch my son while I went to law school, and so I enrolled at the University of Miami, and I went to law school, loved it. Started my career as a state attorney.
We're going to get to that in a minute, but you just said something that I forgot about.
You mentioned something about you being a citizen.
Right.
From where? What's your background?
What happened was I'm Cuban. I'm a Cuban American.
I didn't know. I'm Cuban too.
Yeah, I can
Cuban
tell.
American. I would have known that for some reason.
Right.
And so what happened was
share that light skin.
my parents fled communist Cuba in 1960 with 7 kids and clothes on their backs, and they came to Miami, and so I came. I was 9 months old at the time, so I have always viewed myself as very American. We became citizens, all of us, probably, I want to say all of us became citizens in 1970. And
So 7 kids, right? 7 siblings?
well, I have actually, so my little brother, who was born 5 years after me, he's the only true-born American. He's the only one out of all of us that could run for the presidency.
So do you speak Spanish as well?
Yes, I do. But unfortunately, because my father understood English and I understand Spanish, I would speak to him in English and he would answer me in Spanish. So although I do speak Spanish and I speak it very fluently, I speak it like an American speaking Spanish.
So do I. My mom, Cuban, and when I was younger, I knew Spanish really well, and I can understand it perfectly, but because I would respond to her in English, and then she started responding in English, now I have trouble sometimes with some of the words.
Right, me too.
I can understand it perfectly.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's awesome.
And I can even read it and I can write it, but I speak like an American speaking Spanish.
So, the other guests that we've had, either all immigrants themselves or the children of immigrants, and so that's a tribute to you and your mom and dad for raising 6 or 7 kids, ultimately 8, I think.
Yes, 8.
But inspiring you, I guess, I'm sure, to pursue English, college, education, and then to become where you're at now. So would you give credit to mom and dad for doing that?
Listen, none of us in my family would be where we are, who we are, or anything else without my parents. I was very blessed to have been born into that family and have had the parents I had and the brothers and sisters that I had. And so we're very, very close. My parents are deceased, unfortunately, but I carry them with me all the time, think about them every day, and I think that they're involved and have a hand in everything that I do.
And you make them proud, and that's what.
And I know that era was very good on work ethic, especially. And I've come to see, and not that Americans are not. Let me go back. But I've come to see that a lot of immigrants that come from other countries have really, really strong work ethic, especially the ones that came a long time ago. From Cuba, strong work ethic. And then people from other countries, I mean, they come here and they open up restaurants like this.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they work hard.
Well, the owner of Joe, if you met him, is from Lebanon, and his English is broken, but he came, had a dream, a vision, and he's doing really well for him. So,
which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. What happened was my mother could switch from Spanish to English without a problem.
Oh, good.
So she was very fluent in both languages. My father had more difficulty speaking English, although he understood it and could read it and everything else. And when my parents came here to put, a roof over our head and clothes on our backs, my father flipped hamburgers at a Royal Castle, and my mother took a job working retail. And they would switch, and one would work at night and the other one would work during the day, so somebody was always home with their kids.
Yeah.
And they instilled that work ethic in all of us, and the desire, to work and achieve our dreams.
So how long were you in Miami then?
My whole life, up until 1993.
Okay.
So I lived in Miami from 1960 until 1993. And in 1993, I moved to New York.
So stop right there, because I know ultimately you were a prosecutor in New York, right?
Yes.
So so when you moved, you were a prosecutor now, or
So what happened was, I had my son. I go to law school. I graduate from law school. I got bitten by the prosecutorial bug while I did an internship at the state attorney's office.
In Miami.
I put all my eggs in one basket and sent one resume out, and it was to Janet Reno, who was the state attorney at the time in Miami, and I was fortunate enough to get hired. So I worked there for 3 years. My partner at the time was in news, got a job with ABC in New York. So we moved to New York.
You said ABC, like the channel, the news channel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we moved to New York, which actually was a great, it was a great challenge and a great adventure. So I was in New York, actually not 93, 1991.
Okay.
I moved there in the summer of 1991, took the New York bar, which was
So you're licensed here and in New York?
I'm licensed in Florida, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Washington, D.C.
So you took all those bars?
Washington, D.C. you get to waive in. But New York, New Jersey, and Maryland, and Florida, obviously, we have to take the bar, so I did.
I'm telling you, we could go on days.
Yeah, that's
but,
amazing.
And so anyhow, once I moved there, my son went to this great school there in Manhattan, which really helped him because he's very smart, but learning disabled, has dyslexia and ADHD. So he went to this specialized school that really was fabulous, so that was great. I got a job at the Brooklyn DA's office, which was unbelievable.
Did they have night court back then, or no? Night court, or?
I didn't do night court, but what we would do there that was really kind of cool is you'd do these 24-hour, look at this handsome guy. We would do these 24-hour shifts because it is like Law and Order.
Okay.
It is like Law and Order. The prosecutor takes the confession.
Okay. Just like in the...
Just like you see in the show. Okay. And so every prosecutor would have a 24-hour shift that they were on duty. And for whatever reason, I pulled the summer on a Saturday.
Just thought when she was in New York as a prosecutor.
And this was, I want to say 1992, and so Brooklyn looked different than it does today.
Wow.
And on that particular 24-hour shift, I want to say we had 13 homicides in that period. And so literally from the time I got to the office at 6 o'clock in the morning until the next day at 6 o'clock in the morning, I was driven by police officers from precinct to precinct doing interviews with murder defendants or defendants that were being accused of murder and reading them their constitutional rights and interviewing them.
Interesting. And how long were you in New York then?
So I was in New York a total of probably about 2 years.
2 years?
And then my partner got a job here with Channel 8. So that's what brought me to Tampa. And I was fortunate enough, this was 93, to have gotten a job at the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office.
And who was state attorney back then?
It was Harry Lee Coe was the state attorney.
I knew his son. Well, I know his son.
Yeah, his office is near my office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. He's a good guy, stand-up guy.
Yeah, I
He likes
don't know
planes,
him well,
too.
but his office is a really nice office, and he always keeps it nicely, so I'm happy about that.
So when you got here, and Mike, I'm sorry if you had any questions.
No. I'll chime in a minute.
When you got here, were you assigned to like the homicide division? Because I know.
So no, what happened was when I got here, the office had a policy that when you transferred in, okay, you would start like everybody else that was a new hire, you would start a misdemeanor. But because of the experience that I had, I started in felony. And so I was in front of Judge Diana Allen as a felony line attorney, and at the time, Michelle Cisco was Michelle Peden, and she was a line attorney there, and my supervisors were Chris Watson and Shirley Rhodes.
Oh, wow.
And so I climbed rapidly through the office, and I want to say I was a division chief in either 94, 95, and then I was in the homicide unit.
And so, how long were you in homicide?
I was in the homicide unit here for probably about a year.
Okay.
But as a division chief, as you know, at the state attorney's office in Hillsborough, you try murder cases too. So I tried them both as a deputy chief and as a division chief.
And so the transition from prosecutor to the defense side, what was that? Because I've known you for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And I know that you're a good person, but when I first met you, I want to say you were a prosecutor, and I could tell that's what you wanted to do. So what was that transition like being a defense?
It has to be different. Yeah, you're on the other side of the
The
fence.
reason why I say that is because I think anyone who knows Lyann will say you're probably one of the best defense attorneys in Tampa. Barry Cohen,
Thank
respectfully,
you.
right?
Thank
Number
you.
one. Well, rest in peace. And unfortunately now, because he's gone, I think you're number one. So.
Well, I don't agree, but thank you. There's other great defense lawyers. I'm sitting with some here at this table. But what I would say about it was I never saw myself as anything but a prosecutor. And so circumstances happened with Harry Lico that I had to leave. And so I took a 4-month hiatus where I sat and I thought about, could I really be a defense attorney? Because I really, really, really believe in our system. And I believe in our system, and for it to work, you have to have adversarial representation on every side.
I agree.
Okay? And if you don't, then you're never sure whether you had a true adversarial testing of the facts. You can never be sure. And so I've been this passionate prosecutor for 10 years. It's in one resume out of law school. It was to be a prosecutor. So I thought about it long and hard, and Judge Diana Allen said to me, you need to be a defense attorney. And she gave me the book that at the time was a series of, I think they call them beignets, which was The Green Mile.
Yeah.
And she gave it to me and said, you need to read this, so I did. And then she said, you need to be a defense attorney. I said, do you think I can really be as strong an advocate as I was as a prosecutor? Because otherwise I wasn't going to do it.
And make sure you understand the prosecutor side, which I'm sure makes you stronger.
And she settled it. She appointed me on a first-degree murder case in December of 1997. You didn't have to be on a list then.
Yeah.
And so I got a call, and she said, come here, you're going to accept the appointment on this case. And as fate would have it, and I believe this was God's plan, as fate would have it, it was a case where my client was accused of first-degree murder, and as sure as I'm sitting here talking to you and talking to whoever watches this, absolutely falsely accused, not guilty. And I tried that case, and we went to trial within 2 months of the appointment on that case.
That's really fast.
And I got a 7-minute not guilty.
Not guilty.
7 minute.
Was it a capital case? Or
No, the death penalty wasn't sought, but he was facing life in prison. Our justice system is so important to our democracy. It's what makes us who we are. It's what defines us as Americans. And how do we know that? Because the last 5 words we say when we pledge allegiance to our great flag is for liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
So the justice is mentioned in our pledge that we say to our flag. And so nobody wants to have a wrongful conviction.
Understanding is, you went from the defense side criminal defense side. Well, prosecutor and then criminal defense, and then you did some civil work with some injury. You were mentioning me nursing
Right.
malpractice.
So what happened is that I left. I became a defense attorney. I realized that yes, I can bring the same effort, the same passion, the same level of interest that I had as a prosecutor to that work. I was for a period of time the head of the homicide division for the public defender's office, and then I went and I worked for Rick Escobar, who I had handled cases against as a prosecutor, and who became one of my dearest friends. And I worked for him, and that was a tremendous experience. I loved working for Rick. But while I was working for Rick, Barry Cohen came and asked me to go and work for his firm, and so I did. And I went and I worked for Barry's firm for about 4 years. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to do civil trials with the civil attorneys that he had working in his office. And so I tried some premises liability cases with my trial partner, was Fred Zinover, who's an excellent civil attorney. And we got some very, very good results for our clients in that.
But as far as Barry Cohen, so we mentioned at the beginning of the segment, what was that like? What was Barry like as a person, as a lawyer, as a friend, as a mentor?
He remains my number one legal mentor to this day. We lost him in September to cancer. He was just a tremendous individual to work for. His way of thinking is out-of-the-box thinking. The way that he would view different facts and different pieces of evidence, the way to prepare just took you to a completely different level. There were 16 other lawyers that worked for the firm at the time, in addition to me and Barry, and those attorneys were all top in their field. So to be able to work with such excellent lawyers at such a high level, and anybody that does law and has ever gone to a seminar outside of the state of Florida knows that if you're at an ACDL seminar somewhere and you mention Tampa, people go, "Oh, Barry Cohen." He was a premier lawyer here in this community. He did a lot for citizens as far as being accused and providing them with excellent representation. He went up to the Supreme Court and argued to maintain the reasonable doubt instruction the way that it is. He also gathered the state lawyers to maintain us having the ability to depose witnesses in criminal cases. So he did a lot. He was one of the founding fathers for the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers.
Wow, interesting.
So he was a tremendous influence on me and frankly on us as a profession.
Absolutely. I remember I saw his last trial. It was, I want to say it was a homicide trial. And I remember, the critics, Barry's beyond his prime. And I'm like, listen, I've been watching this trial. He's got a lot more left in him. And this is before, I don't know if he was sick or not, and he had an acquittal. And I remember the critics were like, he's beyond his prime, he needs to give it up. And he had that jury wrapped around his finger. And they loved him.
And he's a little guy too. I met him a few times, not intimidating, nothing, just, but I'm
Right. But once you got to know him, he was a friendly, great guy. But if you didn't know him and you were on the other side, absolutely, he was a bulldog. And I mean that respectfully, the same as Lyann here. Lyann, you don't mind me saying, can be a bulldog, but I mean that in a polite, respectful way, in a professional way.
You've got to do what you've got to do.
Right, yeah, I agree.
But if you go to Lyann's office, you will see articles all over her wall of some of her greatest victories. And I remember you told me a story once about a homicide that you won in acquittal. Was that the same one that you referenced got appointed on, or was that another homicide?
No, it was another one.
It was another one, okay.
Yes.
I remember you telling me there's nothing greater to know that someone who's innocent and you get an acquittal. And I'll never forget that speech. So you've been my mentor. So it's funny how Barry taught you, and then you're teaching all of us and all that.
Well,
I love it.
I learn from everybody too. I'm always learning. Like before we went on tape, I always sit there and I'll hear people say, "Well, I've learned all I need to know." I'm still learning. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't learn something new, and that's what keeps us interested, and that's what keeps us passionate.
So the biggest question is, if you're doing very well for yourself in the civil side and in the criminal side, why give that up to be a judge? So Why? I mean,
So I'm going to go back a little bit. So after I left Barry's, my partner Kim and I opened up our own practice. So like all of us, I'm a small business owner. We employ people. We do nursing home abuse litigation and criminal defense work and some other kinds of civil cases as well. And so what happened was, over the last 31 years of being an advocate, which I've loved, I've had the ability to appear in front of a lot of judges. And probably I would say about 20 years ago or so, I started saying, will there ever come a time where I feel like I want to be a judge? And I sat and I mulled it over and I said, well, only when I'm ready. Only when I feel like I can get on the bench and be the kind of judge I would want to practice in front of. And so, you know, the years have gone by and I feel like I'm ready. You know, I have a tremendous amount of experience in a bunch of different areas. I practice in front of a lot of different judges. I think I know what makes for a good judge. I think I have the patience, which you have to have, the listening skills, which we have to have, because I think one of the hardest transitions for judges, and I hope no judge that watches this takes offense, is that their hardest transition is coming from being a talker to being a judge where you're supposed to be listening.
Writing good notes, yeah.
Okay? And I have developed my listening skills. And I know that I can listen objectively to people. And to me, I want to spend the last chapter of my career, I'm 60, I want to spend the last chapter of my career not being an advocate. And when I research or I read the law, just reading it from a pure perspective without an agenda, without trying to figure out how I can either promote my client's position or defend my client's position. And same way with facts. If I'm listening, if I'm up in the role of a fact finder, I want to be able to listen to the facts from a completely neutral perspective without having an agenda. And that's how I'd like to put the period at the end of the sentence.
Maybe the exclamation mark.
Yeah, of my legal career.
Not a period, a big old exclamation mark.
Yeah, and I think what makes you such a phenomenal attorney with whatever you're doing is, you analyze it not only from your client's perspective, but you're also looking at it from the other side, because you have to be prepared for what the other side's going to do. So I think, you have that already ingrained in you, because you're going to be looking at it from both sides. You're going to hear what, each side is arguing to you. You're going to be able to cut through that and make decisions. And I think the fact that you've done, criminal, civil, and the level to which you've done those is just hands down just puts you in the absolute perfect spot that I don't think there's anyone else that could match that. So I do think that it's a situation where at the end of it, you're putting the period, but you are bringing such a wealth of knowledge that I would absolutely love to practice in front of you. I think it'd be just one of those where going in, just like anything else, all you want is someone who's going to listen, give you a fair shake, and at the end of it, Lyann, I'm so excited for you, because I think it's just going to be tremendous.
Listen, the word's getting around. Everyone loves you, and respects you and admires you. Even the people that know you have heard of you, and they're like,
well, now hopefully 1,000 people here now.
But I gotta say something. I've had the opportunity, if you will, the privilege of being working with you in a couple of cases. One was a Latin King case, and we learned a long time early on in the process, the Latin King case, let Lyann handle it because she knows what she's doing. But she does it in a way where she's not just looking out for her client's best interest, for justice, for everyone, make sure that everyone gets a fair shake. So that's number one. And then the second case we're on a case now, we can't go into that. But I'm watching her and I'm learning from her. And Mikey will tell you. Don't I tell you every time? It's like, I'm exhausted. We meet 2 or 3 times a week, whatever, and then 2 or 3 hours per meeting. Every time I watch her and Rick, I learn something new. They take that case and they shred it apart like if it was rub off. Yeah, you take it apart to the point where hopefully there's nothing left. But watching that, it's just an experience. So it's like getting a master's degree in law, but watching
Thank you.
that trial is going to be.
I think
Let me sit back and just.
Yeah,
We're
and
going
I
to be
think
exhausted.
as a judge, that's great. You know how to tear things apart and look at all the
to
finite
me,
details.
listen, to me, we've all represented people, okay? And so even when you're a prosecutor, even though you're the state, you're dealing with a victim or a victim's family who's suffered some horrible, violent crime. And you see the fear in their eyes, the fear of the unknown. They come into a foreign land, which is the criminal courthouse. And when you represent civil clients, it's the same thing. They're in a foreign land, which is a civil courthouse. And so the last thing that any of us likes to have is that our client comes into a setting where we feel comfortable, but where the client feels completely uncomfortable, and they're in front of a judge who has a horrible demeanor, is more scary, is more rude, is unprepared, takes forever to decide an issue. All of those things that end up really frustrating our citizens and making them feel like our justice system doesn't work when it really does work.
Yeah, it does.
It really does work, and it is the best. And it is the best system in the world.
I agree.
And so, my goal is that I would hope that anybody that would appear in front of me would feel like they were being respected, that I tried to have empathy, and that I listened, and that I came on the bench prepared, and prepared to do what needs to be done on the case without any agenda. And that's my goal. That's what I've always wanted when I've appeared in front of somebody, and that's what I want to do. And so that's why I'm willing to leave a successful practice to end my career like this. So hopefully I'll get elected. We'll see.
I think
I need everybody's support.
If you could just give details, like how would people vote for you when? Because I know you're doing a campaign run today, but this will air unfortunately not today. On the other day.
That's fine.
If somebody wanted to help the campaign or volunteer or whatever, how
Just
could
know
they
more
do that?
about you that we
Know
haven't
about
already
you,
discussed.
exactly.
Well, I've got a Facebook page, which is Vote for Lyann Goudie. I've got a website, which is also Vote for. I think my website's Vote for Lyann for Judge. I'm really bad at remembering those things. You can always call me on my cell, which is 813-727-8427, and I'll talk to you. You can basically, I always tell people, you can Google me. Go into the Tampa. I call it still the St. Pete Times. Go into the Tampa Bay Times archives, and if you spell my name correctly, you should be able to pull up my articles.
So I want to say one last thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
But the election isn't until August of 2020. I'm currently unopposed. I'm running for Jack Espinosa's seat. He's retiring, which is Group 13.
He was a mentor for a lot of us, by the way, Judge Espinosa. Every once in a while you see him walking around here, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not here. But one thing for me personally, though, and then I'll turn to for closing remarks, is the fact that you just mentioned your age. You said it, not me, but the fact that you're 61.
I'm going to be. If I get elected, I'll be 61 when
You gotta stop saying the word if.
Right. But my point is,
when I get elected.
every time
I never take anything for granted, which is why I'm always super prepared.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'm always super prepared because I never take anything for granted.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was that I love how even at 60 you still have goals, and that's when my theme when we do this show. I say it over. I'm 51. I still have goals for the next 10, 20 years. So the fact that you are at 61, you're not looking to slow down.
No.
Most people say at 61, I'm done. You want to keep going, and I love that. So that speaks volumes about who you are as well. So.
I love it. I agree. I think, if you were to decide never to practice again or never be involved in law, I think you would still go out on top. But I think the fact that you want to turn your attention now to becoming a judge and bringing the same, just hearing you say, I want to be prepared, what I foresee when you become a judge, Lyann, is just you bringing the same intensity and ferocity that you bring in being an advocate, which obviously it's different when you're a judge because it's tempered, but I think that intensity for justice, to do the right thing, to listen, I have no doubt that it's going to be the same thing you've done as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, as a civil attorney, and it's just going to be amazing.
And it's going to make us better lawyers because she's not going to tolerate.
Oh man, let me tell you, the first time I go in front of her, I'm going to be so scared because
in a good way.
I know I'm gonna have to be super prepared for everything.
Right.
It's gonna be, it's gonna be like going
Say
into
we
an
can't
old
just say,
argument.
hey.
No.
No, I would never.
No, but it's going to be, but
My
but
mind
it's
will
great.
die happen one day. That'll never happen though.
I love stuff like that because it does. It makes you more prepared.
Yeah.
It makes you get into it, and it's a. But you know what you're getting. You're going to get a judge who's going to listen, who is smart, and who's going to be prepared. So even when you're drafting something, you got to be ready. You got to put what you mean in there and do it the right way because if not, she'll call you out.
Yeah, but
which
at the
is
same
great.
time, it makes you sharper. It
Absolutely.
makes us sharper.
Absolutely.
It's great. You know, I love it. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just because people are not familiar, you're taking someone's seat, but is it civil? Is it criminal? Is it federal? Like what exactly?
You
does
don't
that mean?
know.
You
So
don't know.
what
Okay, I
we're
got you.
doing is there's going to be 8 circuit judge seats open for the 2020 election. Currently, I'm unopposed, but the qualifying period to run doesn't until early May of 2020. So there's time for people to jump in races.
Sure.
And so what happens is you're running for circuit court judge. So if you get elected, the chief judge puts you wherever you're needed. And I'm one of those people that, I'm running to be a judge. I'm not running to be this kind of judge.
Sure.
I'm running to be a good judge. And wherever I would be needed, I'm happy to go. So
And you know what the amazing thing too, Lyann, is wherever you're needed, you're gonna do just wonderfully well at. I mean, you're going, and with your background, I think in both criminal and civil, it's not going to be someone who comes in and hey, you don't know the civil rules of procedure because you've been doing criminal. No, you know them. You've tried cases, so I think that just will create for all of us a position with you where, hey, she's going to be great no matter where she is. You want to go and where you're needed, which is phenomenal. So I think at the end of the day, wherever you end up will be where you're supposed to be, and it's just going to be unreal.
thank you.
Have there ever been any other Cuban-born judges that we know of, or no? I know there's a lot of Cuban descendant, but any born in Cuba? I don't know if there is any.
I don't know. That's
a good question.
Yeah, right?
Are you talking about in Hillsborough? Because clearly in Miami,
Oh, definitely Miami. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
I think she might be the first.
I don't know.
That'd be
Awesome, man.
That'd be great.
That'd be good. All right.
Yeah.
Listen, Lyann,
All right,
thank you
all
for
right,
joining
boys.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Salute.
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 I get to have lunch with 3 handsome guys.
Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you.